We're back to the Neil Haley Show, and I'm with best-selling author Grace Lynx Jenkins of Sight. Grace, here we go. You're going to go into more psychology, and I love talking about this. So dive into this further for me. The
Yeah,
topic you want to discuss. Yeah.
yeah. So in my book, there's a bunch of psychological themes, but it's not just about the individual. It's not just about individual psychology. I do have quite a bit of social psychology, a study in social psychology in my book. And one of the things that stood out to me, especially during the time period that I got the idea for this book, was the idea of group polarization and the idea of forcing other people to try to think like you do. So essentially, the more people that you get in a group, the more of an echo chamber starts to form.
Mhm.
And the group pressurizes all of the members to think in the same way. The problem is that when you do that, there is almost no room for individual thought, which is, to be quite honest with you, in my opinion, very detrimental to society as a whole, because your best achievements in society, whether technological, medical, etc., those typically come from your intellectuals who are thinking outside of the box. So people who are thinking for themselves, taking these ideas, and then applying them across the board.
Interesting. And why do you think people want people to think the specific way and not let them have their own thoughts, their own train of thought, their own real values in life, thought process? Why?
I really do think that it comes down to two different things. One, people feel most comfortable with what they are the most familiar with. And when you have somebody who thinks differently than you for whatever reason, you might feel a little uncomfortable because it's a little unfamiliar. And this is just a natural part of human psychology. Now, another part might be you are trying to do some sort of moral grandstanding to feel good about yourself. You will see this a lot, especially in people who are screaming about a certain topic over and over again, but then they never actually have any sort of follow through. And you'll see this a lot on social media. You'll have your little social topic of the week or whatever, and people will get on there and they'll be screaming at you through the phone, desperately trying to get your attention, when really all it is just a big way to feel good about themselves. So to me, it's mainly down to wanting to feel comfortable and then wanting to feel good about yourself. Now, obviously, as a Christian, my standard is the Bible, and that is the objective moral standard. I do believe that there is an objective moral standard. However, I am not going to go out and tell other people what to do. Obviously, we have our laws, such as, we have penalties for murder and other heinous crimes like that. And there are some moral things that others may do that are wrong. But again, it's not up to me to go out and tell them what to do necessarily. You never want to encroach upon other people. That is between them and God at a certain point. You might be able to encourage them, but if you are going in and just bashing a person constantly, it's not going to give you the results that you want.
Definitely not going to give you the results, and the results are going to be very poor at the final stage of it.
Yeah, exactly. And you see this in every single group. It is so common, especially in political groups. You will have people who will go on social media and they will spew their typical rhetoric, trying to morally grandstand or emotionally grandstand. And the reason they do this is because they just want to feel good about themselves, and they don't feel comfortable with the idea of having different opinions at all. It's like some people just don't seem to have the ability to coexist. I think a lot of people, even some Christians, do struggle with this. It does say in the Bible, in one verse from Paul, I believe it's in Thessalonians, one of the Thessalonians, but it says that we should live quietly and try to live in harmony with as many people as possible. And that does tend to be forgotten sometimes. I think one of the biggest examples of this was when I went to college on both sides, because there were other students at this college who had very different political beliefs from me, which is fine. I don't care what you believe, but they would be very loud about their beliefs and they would act like you were just a dirty bigot for thinking anything differently from them. And then you would also have people who would come in and they would try to tell us, and this was an all girls college, so all women there, they would try to guilt trip us into going into neighborhoods that would not necessarily be safe for women of our age. And I remember this one woman, she got up there and she said, are you going to serve Jesus this Easter break by going on the mission trip, or are you going to be selfish? What are you accomplishing there?
Nothing.
Nothing, exactly. Because at a certain point, you have to understand that there are nuances to things. And we clearly want to try to live in peace with as many people as possible. Yeah, obviously, there's a right and there's a wrong, but you can't go around trying to basically take a little sledgehammer and hammer everyone down to try to believe exactly the way that you do. It doesn't work out. There are some things that you just have to let go.
And that's definite, letting go of things. But I can't believe when you say this that they coerce people into only wanting to think the way they want to think, or they have no conversation with you at all. It's done.
Yeah, it is incredibly bizarre. It's very crazy. And this was something that was almost completely new to me. And the thing is, a lot of the times people will respond by calling you a name, or they might say something about you being a bigot. That's fairly common. You'll see a lot of that, especially on one end of the political spectrum. And then on the other, they might call you a snowflake or something along those lines. It's never enough. And the reason why is that you have these groups, they've become echo chambers. And in this day and age, I'm just going to say it, we live in a very godless society. A lot of people today believe that morality is subjective, which is untrue. Morality is objective, but a lot of people like to think that the majority of human beings should decide the morality. This is the problem. Human beings are naturally evil, and naturally they fall into these certain traits where if you become so strongly obsessed with trying to keep the group all exactly the same, you lose progress across the board. You just lose it entirely. There is no room for thought whatsoever. Now, yes, there are objective truths, but at the same time, there are things where your opinions can differ and it can be okay.
Mhm. All right. Best place people can go again is where to buy your book.
Grace Lynx Jenkins.com.
Fantastic. Appreciate it, Grace. Thanks again.
Thank you.
You're watching and listening to the Neil Haley Show, and we'll be back in just a moment.